Happy Sunday and welcome to Kleinshire. I'm Franz
I'm Rosemary.
and we're partner farmers with 6 rambunctious boys whom you can probably hear in the background. Well, this is going to be our YouTube channel. Our goal is not so much to create a family vlog, but to share something of what we do, because the more people we talk to, the more it seems that there are people interested in a sustainable lifestyle, in back to the land, growing what they eat, knowing how things were produced. And this has been something of a journey for us, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
How did we begin?
How did we begin?
No, very seriously,
That's a
how did we
loaded
begin?
question. Little by little.
Little by little.
Not all at once.
Well, I think a big part of our beginning has to do with the fact that our respective families were hobby farmers. I grew up in town. My dad is a lawyer. But nonetheless, we grew most of what we ate. We had a big garden. We canned. We had chickens, eggs, meat. It's just part of how I grew up. Same for you.
Same
kinda,
for me. A little
right?
bit different, but my dad worked outside the home. But we've always been into raising our own meat. My brothers would hunt with my dad. And we've always had a garden and like a little bit of this and that. Nothing full time though.
Back in 2017, we had the opportunity to move back here to Wisconsin, to the very farmstead that Rosemary grew up on. How did that happen?
By God's providence.
By God's providence. Well, your parents always wanted this to be a farm in the family, right?
Yes, true. Because my parents wanted one of us to take over who was actually going to farm it as a farm, not just turn it into something. My mom is very romantic about farming and she loves the whole idea. And my parents have always been organic in their practices. So that's the other thing. They want things to be as natural to nature and creating that perfect harmony and balance between utilizing the land but also giving back so that you're getting that full life cycle.
We were hobby farming in North Carolina, where I was a full-time teacher. This was a step beyond that, though. We in taking over the farm, were taking over nearly 40 acres. There are 20 tillable acres out there. And the question was, well, what do we do? How do we use it? And we had this crazy idea that we wouldn't just hobby farm, we would actually try to make a living off the land. And it's been quite the journey. What would you say has been the toughest thing?
It's like with anything that's really worthwhile, there's a big learning curve. And with raising animals and working the land, you have to deal with weather and things that are beyond your control. So you have to learn to adapt and work with what you have going.
Well, we've been at this now for 5 years.
I think
Right?
this
This is going to be our
is our
fifth growing
year
season.
in April, yeah.
We grow garlic, and we grow a variety of other produce crops that are in rotation, because since we're certified organic, rotation is part of what keeps the soil healthy and prevents the accumulation of pests. We also, in addition to the tillable acreage, inherited a great deal of pasture, but not enough to run beef or something like that and make money. And so we do have some steers for ourselves. We have some pigs, chickens, but the question is what to do with that pasture. And we ended up bringing some meat goats with us from North Carolina, and we're trying to build a herd. It's been challenging to find the right goats that we can raise in a healthy manner without chemical wormers. How did we get into goats?
It started actually not meat goats, but dairy goats. Our third son, he was allergic to cow's milk, and especially anything processed or pasteurized. So he could not have dairy when he was little. And that, with my research, it led me to start looking at the possibility of trying goats. So we actually started with little Nigerians for dairy because I wanted something not too big, and I wanted to try the goat milk for our son, and that's where we got started, was in North Carolina.
The
goat Nigerians.
Goat milk is easier to digest. It's actually much closer to human milk, right?
Yes.
And the boys love it, and we've gone from the Nigerians to full-sized dairy goats for ourselves. But in moving here and having the pasture, the question is how to make money with goats, and that got us into meat goats too, and we're trying to grow a herd.
You don't really get a lot of money with dairy goats. You have to have the right setup and the right market, and it's not a good market for most people unless you're already set up for dairy goats. Meat goats are a much better option at this time.
And interestingly, at this moment, as we record this video, I think that the price for meat goats on the market is double what it was just a few years ago. And there are a few factors. COVID is one of them, but another is that there was a major drought in Australia, which provided 80% of the goat meat on the market here. And this in turn is leading to a demand for American producers, given the lack of meat exported from Australia and New Zealand and places like that. So it's an exciting market. We're not dependent on it financially for the farm. It's a small thing for us, and we're trying to build the right herd.
And that's been a lot of work.
Yeah.
And a lot of trial and error.
A lot of culling of goats that don't fit what we're trying to do. We use no chemical wormers whatsoever, no antibiotics, and we've struggled because the most common type of goat on the meat market is the boar. But the boar is also, when you take the boar off the feedlot and put it on the pasture, it's quite susceptible to worms. So we've turned to Kikos. And we're trying to have something of a cross. We have Kiko buck that we just used for several seasons, and well, we are in kidding season now. It's been an adventure so far.
It's
hasn't
cold.
it? It's cold right now.
Poor babies.
First night, -2.
And hopefully no more until it warms up a little more.
That's right. When it's that cold, you have to be out there with a hairdryer.
So you don't have goat popsicles?
We call them goatsicles, actually. Little morbid, but the fact of the matter is that when that baby leaves the mother, you have to get him dried really quickly. And some of these goats are shy. They don't like you around. Others do, actually.
They want your help, yeah.
But Rosemary's really good at this. How many goats have you pulled?
Like ahead to help with? Not that
many.
I actually prefer not to interfere at all. We are as hands off as we feel we can be. We do not want to interrupt a mother in her ability to do what she can herself, and that's actually something when we're looking at our future breeders, we're looking at the mothering ability and how much the ease of kidding and the instinct that the mother has in taking care of her own babies and not having us help. But right now we're in a situation where even if it's a good mother, it's too cold. The babies will freeze.
Yeah, so the baby leaves the mother. We're there to help dry the baby off. We use the hairdryer. And unfortunately, we've had to bring some in to warm up and regain their body heat. But as soon as possible, we put them back out there. And it looks like we have up to 40 degrees in the forecast in just a few days. I'm ready to go out and check on the goats. It is a cold one out there for sure. It's funny, we breed the goats in the summer, and the plan is that by this point it is getting warm out. But sure enough, it was in the 30s last week, and it'll be in the 30s, even 40 coming up. Hey, Snowy. But there were 3 days in the schedule, the forecast, where the temperature was going to be colder. And sure enough, the night that it was -2, we ended up having our 2 Nigerians go. And then last night it was -6. And let me tell you, kidding goats when it's that cold is not very fun. All right. Well, we're down to the barnyard. A little boy coming to help me. Let's go check on these goats. Here's our goat barn. What do we have in here? Oh, lots of goats. They're noisy over there. In here we have one of the dwarf goat mothers with her babies. Hi, Ruthie. How are you? How are your babies? What's that? What's that?
Can you get me in the video?
There we go. So you have your babies tucked in, which is exactly what we want, because that body temperature and the warm milk in the bellies will make them stay warm. All right. Here, Chris Agnes, can you close the door for me? Let's see what we have in here. That's doing a great job. There's our herd queen. No? Nursing one of her 2. She has a doeling and a buckling. The other one is over there. Mango knows exactly what she's doing. Holly is learning to be a mother. Yes, she's a single buckling who will help her. And here we have another meat doe. Twins. And we have one more over here. Why, hello. How are your babies? Yeah, look at them. They're staying warm. Oh, that one says that she is hungry. What do you think, Mama? You want to get up and nurse her? Yeah. Maybe. No, I'd rather chew my cud. The other Nigerian did not get to have her babies with her yesterday because they were too chilled. So she is not doing such a good job reaccepting her babies. Buttercup, hello, how are you? The problem, Buttercup, is that she doesn't recognize her babies as her own. Now, let's see what happens when we try to put them on. Maybe that will help. Here. All right. Come here. Come here. Come here.
I'll get the baby.
Here.
I'll get the baby.
Here. Yeah, go ahead. You go over there. Give me a baby. Here, give me that one. No, it's right down there. Right down there.
Oh, the baby goat wants me.
Yeah.
Oh, it thinks
hold
I'm
on.
Mama. Oh. Got my finger. Got my finger.
It's right there. Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Oh, you're kidding me. It's okay, baby goat. Okay. It's fine. We're gonna get it after the girl.
They're yours. They're yours. Look. Yeah, they're yours. No. Like with all things farming, sometimes things don't go the way you want. It's definitely the case with animals. But if it means that the babies come up tonight and have another bottle, that is just the way it'll be. It's going to be a long week because those first, how many is it? 1, 2, 3, 4 meat does and 2 Nigerians are only the start. I think, I'll have to ask Rosemary, but I think that we had 16 does all told who needed the kid, and that leaves us nearly a dozen. And we're gonna check on these girls. Let's see how they're doing. What's that?
Oh, God, look it.
What is it?
So fat.
Oh, they look so fat?
But they're pregnant.
Yes, that's right. They're pregnant, and goats are ruminants. They're classified as small ruminants, which means that all morning they'll eat hay like this, and then they sit there in the afternoon, like our 2 alpines are doing already, and they ruminate. That is, they chew their cud. They chew and chew, and then they swallow, and then they... Whoops, I disturbed you. I'm sorry, girls. And then it goes to a different stomach, and then they'll regurgitate it and chew it some more, and they'll do that all day, and then they're going to clamor for more hay come evening. So, sweets, how many are you holding hostage there? Yeah, she's not interested in talking to me. But look at that belly. That's not all hay. I'd say they're at least twins. And there's Lily. Hey, Lily. How are you? Yes. Lily is one of our Great Pyrenees livestock guardian dogs. Curry. Look at that belly. Look at that belly. Twins? Triplets? Oh, you want your neck scratched, do you? Yes. You're saying hello too? Oh, for sure.
Oh, look at Cleance's goat's belly. It's so...
Oh, Galadriel. Yes. Galadriel has given us triplets twice. Ideally, you want twins for goats because they have 2 teats. It can be difficult for them to produce enough milk and keep 3 babies happy. But she's such a pretty goat, and she does such a good job mothering that we'll keep her. All right. So, a lot of babies being held hostage out here in the barnyard. A lot of babies. And then there's Lily. Goofball. Goofball. Look at that. Lily Pops. You need your belly scratched? Do you need your belly scratched? Yes. Oh, there you go. There you go. Yes. Now the question is, why do we do goats? We started with those Nigerian dwarf goats that you saw with triplets, and it grew from there. We got some full-sized goats. We learned to make different types of cheese. We make cottage cheese. It's very easy to make fresh cheese. You just heat the milk and curdle it, and put some salt, pepper, Italian seasoning, whatever tastes good to you once it drains. We also want to make money, of course. This farm is a business. We didn't want to get into dairy. It's sort of a messy market. It's controlled by a few large corporations. And as you probably saw on the way down, we don't have a proper barn. We don't have a place to milk. So the question was how to make money with goats. So when we moved here from North Carolina, we also went ahead and purchased a few meat goats. And we've been working on it ever since. We're still not big. I think we have a dozen and a half goats kidding this year. But very slowly we're growing. We're choosing our best females and building our herd. I think ultimately on this small plot of land, we can support 30 to 40 meat does. And it can bring in, probably I'm estimating, about a quarter of our farm income. We're not in a hurry though. We're learning what we're doing. We're learning how to kid. The best time of year for us to kid here in Wisconsin, obviously the last few Februarys have been cold, and that makes kidding labor intensive, a challenge. The goats require a lot of assistance. So we're still small.